The first sound was rain. Not the soft kind, but the sharp, restless drops that slapped against rusted rooftops and broken pavement. The city seemed to breathe with it, hollow, tired, alive in a way only storms could make it. A boy stood under a flickering streetlight, his shoulders hunched, his hands buried deep into the torn pockets of a jacket too thin for the cold. His name was Ion, though in this city, names often felt like luxuries, echoes of another time when people still believed they mattered. He wasn't waiting for anyone. He never did. He was simply there, as if existence itself had become a waiting room. The streetlight buzzed once, twice, then held steady. In its weak glow, the boy's eyes, dark and unblinking, reflected more than exhaustion. They carried a weight, the kind of heaviness that came not from years, but from moments. Moments that had stolen entire lifetimes. From a distance, footsteps echoed. A shadow moved closer, weaving through the silver rain. It was Amna, her hair plastered to her cheeks, her shoes soaked through. She wasn't supposed to be here. No one came to this forgotten corner of the city unless they had a reason. Ion's lips curved into the faintest trace of a smile. Not joy. Recognition. She had come. "You'll get sick," he said, his voice barely louder than the rain. She shrugged, stepping beneath the failing streetlight with him. "I was already sick of waiting." The words carried more than defiance. They carried history, nights of unanswered questions, mornings of silence, and years of promises no one kept. Together, they had learned the language of loss. And tonight, the storm spoke it fluently. Amna glanced at his hands, still buried in his jacket, trembling though he tried to hide it. She wanted to reach for them, to say the thing she had rehearsed 100 times in the silence of her room. But the rain made everything harder. Every breath, every word. Instead, she whispered, "Do you ever feel like this city is swallowing us whole?" Ion tilted his head, watching the water run in tiny rivers along the cracked pavement. For a moment, it looked like veins, like the earth itself was bleeding. "It already has," he replied. Silence. Not the empty kind, but the heavy kind that pressed down on their chests, reminding them of everything unsaid. Above them, the storm broke wider. Thunder rolled across the skyline like an unkept promise. And in that small circle of light, two figures stood side by side, their lives balanced on the fragile edge between escape and surrender. This wasn't just another night. It was the beginning of something neither of them fully understood, something dangerous, inevitable, and already too late to stop. The rain didn't let up. If anything, it grew heavier, as though the sky had decided to punish the city for secrets it could no longer keep. Water pooled at their feet, swallowing cigarette butts and scraps of paper, the remains of other people's forgotten nights. Amna wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "You didn't answer my messages," she said, her voice cutting through the downpour. Ion's gaze flickered, restless. "I read them." "That's not the same." Her words stung more than she intended. For weeks now, their conversations had been nothing but half-truths and silences stretched too thin. And yet here she was, standing in the storm, demanding something neither of them had learned to give: honesty. Ion exhaled slowly, his breath visible in the cold. "Sometimes answering feels like admitting." "Admitting what?" "That I still care." The confession hung between them, fragile as glass. Amna blinked hard, fighting the heat rising behind her eyes. She wanted to tell him she cared too, more than she should, more than she could afford. But the words lodged in her throat, suffocating under the weight of everything unsaid. A car roared past, its headlights slicing through the rain, momentarily illuminating their faces. In that brief flash, their closeness became undeniable. Two souls tethered by something unspoken, something neither time nor distance had managed to sever. Amna's phone buzzed in her pocket, vibrating like an unwanted reminder. She ignored it. Whoever it was, they belonged to a world she no longer recognized, a world that didn't understand why she was standing in this forsaken place, under a dying streetlight, with a boy who carried storms in his chest. "Your family will be looking for you," Ion muttered, finally meeting her eyes. She almost laughed. "My family stopped looking a long time ago." The bitterness in her tone startled him. He had always known she carried scars, but tonight the storm stripped her bare. For the first time, he saw her not as the girl who always came to find him, but as someone who had been lost herself long before he ever was. Thunder cracked overhead. Ion took a step closer. His jacket brushed her sleeve, and for a moment, the cold didn't feel as sharp. "I don't want you caught in this," he said quietly. "In what?" He hesitated. The words were there, pressing at the back of his throat, but fear sealed them shut. Instead, he shook his head. "You'll see soon enough." That answer was worse than silence. It was a warning. Amna swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. Somewhere deep down, she knew this night wasn't just a reunion, it was the start of something larger, darker, something that would demand more from them than either could give. And still, she stayed. Because sometimes, staying was the only choice that made sense. The storm broke into violence. Rain hammered the streets, spilling from gutters in silver sheets, drowning out everything but its own roar. Amna pulled her hood tighter, but Ion didn't move. He stood rigid, staring down the empty road as though expecting it to deliver something he feared. "Ion," she said, reaching for his sleeve. "What aren't you telling me?" Before he could answer, a sound cut through the storm, sharp, mechanical, unmistakable. The low growl of motorcycles. Amna's breath caught. Out of the blur of rain, headlights appeared 3, 4, then 5 beams slicing through the dark. The bikes slowed as they approached, their engines snarling like predators circling prey. Ion's jaw tightened. "You need to leave." Amna froze. "Who are they?" "People who don't forget debts." The riders halted under the flickering streetlight, rain dripping off leather jackets and helmets. One of them dismounted, pulling off his helmet to reveal a scar that ran from brow to jaw like a permanent sneer. His eyes locked on Ion. "You thought you could hide forever?" His voice was gravel, rough with amusement. Amna instinctively stepped closer to Ion, but he angled himself in front of her. "She has nothing to do with this." The man's smirk widened. "Funny how everyone says that right before they lose what they love." Amna's stomach lurched. She had never seen Ion like this, tense, protective, his body coiled like a spring. The rain plastered his hair to his face, but his eyes burned, sharp and unyielding. "Ion," she whispered. "What did you do?" He didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, he said, "I made a choice a long time ago. One that doesn't go away." The scarred man chuckled, signaling his crew. "You owe us. Tonight, we collect." The others stepped forward, the circle closing in. Amna felt her pulse thunder in her ears. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs refused to move. Ion turned to her, his voice urgent but soft. "When I tell you to run, you don't look back. Do you hear me?" Tears mixed with the rain on her cheeks. "I'm not leaving you. You don't understand, I do." Her voice cracked, but her gaze didn't waver. "Whatever this is, whatever you've done, I'm not walking away." For the first time that night, Ion faltered. In her eyes, he saw something stronger than fear, something binding, unbreakable. It shook him more than the threat of fists or blades. The scarred man drew a knife, its edge gleaming under the weak light. "Decide fast, boy. Debt or blood?" Ion's heart pounded. This was it, the point of no return. He could surrender, disappear into the storm like so many before him, or he could fight, knowing it would drag Amna into the fire with him. His hand clenched into a fist. And just like that, the night shifted, the knife glistened under the streetlight, each raindrop sliding down its edge like liquid silver. The storm pressed harder, as if the sky itself wanted to witness what came next. Ion's chest tightened. He could feel Amna trembling behind him, though she hadn't moved away. She should have. She still could. But she stayed rooted to him, as though leaving would mean more than danger. It would mean betrayal. "Time's up," the scarred man hissed. Ion's mind raced. He saw flashes of the past, nights spent running errands for men like this, the weight of stolen money in his pockets. The first time he realized the only way out of hunger was deeper into darkness. He had promised himself he'd pay it back, escape, become someone better. But promises were cheap. Debts were not. He lowered his voice to Amna. "This isn't your fight." Her grip found his sleeve. "If it's yours, then it's mine." The simplicity of it nearly broke him. For so long, he had carried the weight of being alone. Now here she was, offering to share it, even if it crushed her too. The scarred man motioned to his crew. 2 riders stepped forward, boots splashing in the water. The circle closed tighter. "Hand over what's ours," the man said. "Or we take her instead." Amna stiffened. Ion felt his blood turn to fire. "Touch her," he growled, "and you'll regret it." The man laughed, but it wasn't humor. It was hunger. Brave words for someone who's already lost. Lightning split the sky, white fire stretching across the clouds. In that moment, the entire street was lit in stark clarity, Ion's clenched jaw, Amna's tear-bright eyes, the predators surrounding them. Then darkness crashed back down, heavier than before. Inside, Ion warred with himself. He could give in, surrender, disappear into their world forever. It would keep Amna safe for now. Or he could resist, fight, and risk losing everything in one reckless strike. His breath came in ragged bursts. He thought of Amna's question earlier. "Do you ever feel like this city is swallowing us whole?" He realized now she was right. But maybe, just maybe, they could claw their way out together. "Listen to me," he whispered, so low only she could hear. "If this goes bad, you run. Promise me." Her answer was immediate, fierce. "No, Amna, no," her voice cracked, but her resolve was steel. "If you fall, I fall too." Her defiance stunned him, and for the first time that night, he let himself look at her fully. In her eyes, he saw not fear, but a kind of courage he had never known existed. A courage that demanded he rise to meet it. The scarred man raised the knife higher, his patience gone. Decide. The rain, the thunder, the flickering light, it all seemed to collapse into silence. Ion stepped forward. And with that single step, the line between who he had been and who he would become shattered forever. The world collapsed into motion. The scarred man lunged, the knife flashing downward. Instinct took over. Ion shoved Amna back, his own hand flying up to block. The blade missed his chest by inches, grazing his arm instead. Pain seared hot, but adrenaline drowned it. The circle erupted. Shadows surged forward, fists raised, boots slamming into puddles. Ion fought like a cornered animal, every strike fueled not by skill but by desperation. He ducked, swung, lashed out, the rain making every movement slippery, chaotic. Amna screamed his name. She darted forward, trying to pull him back, but one of the riders grabbed her wrist, yanking her toward the dark. Ion saw. Something inside him split wide open. With a roar, he tore free from his attackers, blood and rain blinding him, and slammed into the man holding her. The impact sent them both crashing to the ground. The knife clattered into the gutter. For a heartbeat, silence. Only the storm, raging above them. Then Ion was on his knees, the scarred man looming over him, retrieving the blade. His grin was wide, merciless. "You should have stayed hidden, boy." Ion's breath came ragged, his strength failing. He knew this was it. No more running. No more second chances. And then Amna moved. Her hand closed around the knife first. She gripped it with trembling fingers, the blade heavy, unfamiliar. Lightning lit her face, pale and determined. "Touch him," she said, her voice shaking but unyielding, "and I swear I'll—" The scarred man laughed, stepping closer. "You? You couldn't." Her scream tore through the rain as she drove the blade forward. Time slowed. The sound of steel against flesh was muffled under the storm. The man staggered, shock flashing across his face before rage overtook it. His hand lashed out, striking her across the face. She fell back into the water, gasping, her hands covered in red. Ion surged forward, fueled by something beyond pain. His fists crashed again and again until the scarred man collapsed, motionless, swallowed by the rain. For a moment, Ion stood frozen, chest heaving, knuckles raw, blood mixing with water. Around them, the other riders hesitated, their leader down, their will fractured. One by one, they backed away, engines roaring as they disappeared into the storm. And then it was just the two of them. Ion stumbled to Amna's side. Her lip was split, her cheek bruised, her hands shaking uncontrollably. The knife slid from her grip, clattering uselessly into the flood. "You weren't supposed to," he choked, his voice breaking. She looked up at him, rain streaking her face, her eyes burning with something fierce. "I told you. If you fall, I fall too." In that moment, with sirens faint in the distance and the storm beginning to ease, Ion realized the truth. This wasn't his fight anymore. It was theirs. The city hadn't swallowed them whole. Not yet. But the cost of survival had left a scar neither would ever escape. The storm finally broke. The rain thinned into a drizzle, soft and almost apologetic, as if the sky regretted the violence it had unleashed. The streetlight flickered one last time before burning steady, casting its weak glow over the wreckage left behind. Ion sat in the water, his body trembling, his arm bleeding freely. Beside him, Amna pressed her palm against his wound, her own hands still streaked with blood that wasn't entirely his. Neither spoke. Words felt too fragile for what they had just survived. The distant wail of sirens grew louder, creeping into the edges of their silence. Amna's eyes darted toward the sound, then back to Ion. "They'll come," she whispered. "Then we should go," he answered, though his voice was hollow, his strength draining with every heartbeat. But neither moved. Instead, Ion found himself staring at her, at the cut on her cheek, the fire still burning in her eyes despite everything. She had crossed the line with him, stepped into the darkness he had always tried to keep her away from. And she hadn't let go. "I never wanted this for you," he said, his words breaking under the weight of regret. Amna's lips trembled into something between a smile and a sob. "I chose it. Don't you see? I chose you." The truth of it cut deeper than any blade. In her choice, he saw both salvation and damnation, a bond unbreakable, but forged in blood. The sirens were closer now, painting the wet asphalt in faint flashes of red and blue. Ion forced himself to his feet, swaying, then pulled her up beside him. Their clothes clung to their skin, soaked and heavy, but their grip on each other was firm. "Where do we go?" she asked. "Anywhere but here." They limped down the fractured street, leaving behind the still body of the scarred man, the knife lost in the flood, the echoes of violence etched into the night. Every step hurt, but each one carried them further from the past that had nearly swallowed them whole. When they reached the corner, Ion paused. He turned back once, his gaze lingering on the flickering streetlight, the place where everything had changed. For a heartbeat, he let himself grieve the boy he had been, the innocence they had lost, the storm that had rewritten them. Then Amna's hand found his again. Warm, steady, alive. He didn't look back after that. The sirens screamed louder, but they kept walking, vanishing into the veins of the city. Two silhouettes against the dawn, fragile yet unbroken, carrying their scars like armor. The storm had not claimed them. Not yet. And as the first weak light of morning bled into the sky, it became clear their fight wasn't over. It never would be. But for now, they had each other, two sparks against the endless dark.